Yeah. What will happen is I'll just put it, anytime I'm streaming Decisions and Dragons, I'll just put the rolls of tape around so that you could just try to count how many there are.
Do we get a prize if we're correct?
It's like
I haven't decided yet.
It's like Psych, where they had the pineapples.
Yes.
In each
That show.
episode, you have to have a roll of tape somewhere in the background.
This rum and coke is definitely doing its job now.
I honestly hate that show for the most petty of reasons because it takes place in my hometown, and everywhere they go, it's like, that's not what that is. I'm like, the harbor doesn't look like that. What the fuck?
Just make sure my volume is good on
It's like when things are supposed to be set in Chicago, but they don't film in Chicago, and you're like, your architecture is 1,000% wrong. Like, we have a distinct architecture.
That's Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's like watching Bones all the time, and I'm like, no, we don't have any of those.
BC is a brutalist architecture city. Like,
yes.
See, I did that once, and it was for Shameless. Even though they do film in Chicago. It was the episode where Frank gets dropped off in Canada. And I saw a Canadian flag, and I was like, aha, they left a Canadian flag in the background. And then I saw another one. And then I saw another one. And I was like, maybe I was wrong about that. And I was.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to tonight's episode of Decisions and Dragons. When last we left our intrepid heroes, they had a month to rest and recuperate after rescuing Gilmore from his trials and tribulations across the sea. In doing so, they had gathered some information and maybe realized that Estella Lattimore was maybe not as trustworthy as they had originally thought. They had made an agreement, thanks to an arrangement from Gilmore, with the voice of the Tempest, Keyleth of the Air Ashari, to watch after and train young Ellis to keep her safe, just as much as help her harness her inner abilities, given that Estella wasn't trustworthy anymore. After one of the most emotional gaming moments ever in my career, the party said farewell to Ellis and promised that they would see her again. Cadriel had snuck back into Estella's laboratory and had gathered a little bit more information, discovering that Estella had been meaning to contact somebody from some old retreat that her and some of her colleagues had essentially gone on many years ago. Deducing that this other mage that she had been speaking with would have been coming from Wildmount in some way, shape, or form. You had all arrived back at the house. Faraday and Dermot had discovered that the empty Quincy's had been put under new ownership and had made nice with some of the, with the two new owners. And Arathea had been mesmerized by the orb, which had shown the layout of the plains in both Exandria and seemingly Bivin. She, to the point where she had stared at it for several hours.
Shit happens.
Everybody had reconvened at the Nallard Estate and prepared themselves for the Brothric Gala event that was being held at the Margraves Estate. So, Thurston, tell us, paint me a picture with your words and not the picture that we have all seen. What is Thurston choosing to wear for this gala?
Thurston, as someone who has not had the opportunity to dress up in quite some time, given his new lifestyle, is wearing... It's loud. It's very loud. To find the picture so I can accurately describe this. There it is. I found it. It's like a royal blue. It's blue and gold, which are the Nollard family colors. So it's like a royal blue base with kind of shimmery gold flowers patterns on it. It's only the jacket this time. He doesn't have matching pants. He's not crazy. The pants are just the basic royal blue color. Yes, that is it. It is eye-catching.
All right. You step out into the hallway, feeling satisfied that you are in your complete attire for the evening, to see Saberlina stepping out from her room, wearing a similar colored dress, the midnight blue, with a golden vine with what look like images of like grapes, basically signifying the winery and what they choose to celebrate. That sort of winds down into the dress itself. She is modestly dressed, but it is still very eye-catching as well. As she makes eye contact with you, she just smiles and says, "The clothes do make the man."
You taught me well.
Dermot, what are you choosing to wear for this gala?
Dermot is wearing what I guess you could consider like not an amalgamation, but the like happy medium between styles of the material plane and the Feywild. He's got the style that he's wearing is very Feywild. He does have a jacket, although it's loose fitting. But he has just a plain shirt under it, and he is wearing a kilt because he doesn't like wearing pants. Pants
Wonderful.
are for suckers. But it is all like blues and greens. It's all very vibrant colors, but it still looks good.
Nice. You step out into the hallway to see Jules, who regards and gives a very graceful bow. "Looking marvelous, Mr. O'Ferry."
Always.
Faraday, what are you wearing for the gala?
After being dragged upstairs and rummaging through the last of Thurston Sisters' clothing, I'm pretty sure there was at least one closet left that hadn't been moved. Faraday was able to find this floor-length, very gauzy fabric dress that starts sleeveless and kind of bunches a little bit around her clavicle, and the colors are of a deep sunset, where they start off in oranges and pinks and get darker to magentas, and then around her knees go to like deep blue. Her hair has been let go of its normal buns and sits about to her waist in a deep red. And she has definitely transitioned into summer.
Summer Faraday.
Summer Faraday.
And you step out, and Jules is almost taken aback for a moment before he graciously bows and says, "Darling, you look wonderful."
She'll give a little bit, like a small, kind of indulgent curtsy and say, "Thank you, Jules."
Cadriel, what are you wearing?
Okay, so Cad's not exactly the dress type. She likes to be able to move. She's wearing a jumpsuit that has pants that are like fairly wide leg, but straight, no pleats, none of that crap. And it's a halter that looks a bit like the top of a tuxedo, like the vest of like a three-piece suit. And it has very, very like little pinstripes in it that are silver. And she has tucked her dagger right down here. So the top of it looks like a brooch holding her shirt together.
Nice.
Are you surprised at all?
No.
And then she's decided to leave Gladius at home tonight because she doesn't want to, lose that one. But the venomous short sword, she's tucked behind her back, like in Wonder Woman, that scene where she's at the party.
Mhm.
And then she's pulled her jacket over that, so it's covering the sword. And the jacket tonight is a deep blue purple with little silver stars in the bottom of it, as
Very
it kind of flares out the bottom. And then her hair is about as long as Faraday's, so she has undone the usual braid that she has it in and lets it cascade down her back so that it also hides the sword a little further and just finishes off the outfit.
Perfect. When you put Gladius down, he says, "Don't worry, I will hold the fort. No fiends shall make their way inside.
Well, I'm counting on you to do that, Gladius.
As long as I can find someone to pick me up, don't worry, none will enter."
I'm sure Jules would give you a hand with that. I just don't want to risk, I'm using one of my expendable blades tonight. I don't want to risk losing you.
You definitely see in the hilt a little strange discoloration go across the cheeks in a form of a blush. Well, nice to know I'm not expendable.
Far from it, Gladius.
You look divine.
She gives a little bow. Thank you.
And Arthea, what are you wearing?
So Arthea also had to rummage through Thurston's sister's closet. And she has come out with a probably not quite royal blue, a little bit lighter, airy dress, floor length, that is not fully see-through, but definitely sort of sheer layers. And underneath it, she is wearing pants because she has learned that dresses, not the most practical items. And then she has taken the coat that she received from Gilmore. She's wearing that over it. It's a floor-length brocaded coat with high collar, so fully buttoned up. She does not show a lot of skin. And that, I imagine, in a sort of inadvertently in Thurston's family colors, actually. So more of the midnight blue and gold.
Awesome.
And she is kind of holding her staff, holding her spell book, looking somewhat bewildered as to can she bring it? Can she not bring it? If she leaves it, where does she leave it?
It's up to you. I would say that as you are holding both, Stella is staring from the window.
Yeah.
And you see her expression as she looks between the staff and the book and then back at you. And even though Stella is an owl, you do see this little sweet gesture where she kind of like shrugs and her eyes, they squint a little in a pleasing sort of expression, almost as if she is adoring you.
You get to come with me at least. I might have to send you away initially. I'm not sure if animals are allowed in, and I don't really want to ask, but I'll ask Thurston.
She definitely flies to your shoulder.
Yeah.
And nuzzles against your cheek.
Court, I need my owl.
She's half made.
God, Court, jeez.
She's half made. You have the other one behind you.
That's true, I do.
Oh.
I love her eyes.
The
I
little
love her eyes
tuffies.
and the
It's the
tufts.
ears.
I love that owl so much.
Yeah, so Arthea will emerge looking for Thurston.
I'd say at this point, like a typical like homecoming. Everyone's gathering near the front door, you know, getting ready for pictures or whatever. But yeah, I'd say Thurston's probably just making his way down there.
Thurston?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I haven't ever been to one of these. Can I bring my stuff with me? Do I leave it here? Are there like things that aren't allowed?
Generally, weaponry would not be allowed. And he kind of like looks at Cad and decides he's not going to even say anything. Like, nope.
You'll lose that fight.
But I suppose if you just wanted, well, I guess what did you want to bring? Your spell book, I assume?
Well, I feel really, I don't know. I feel weird leaving it behind. I don't know. I mean, I don't need it. But it's more, I don't know. Can I leave it here? Is that okay?
You certainly can, but if you'd like, I'm sure one of my sisters left a handbag behind, or I'm sure my mother would be happy to loan you one if you'd like something that matches your attire.
Oh, I mean, that would be lovely. I just don't want it to get confiscated on the way in. I don't know what the security is like at these types of events.
I don't think
If
they'll
it's a
confiscate
risk.
your purse.
Do you have one that's big enough to hold a short sword? I could use a third.
You know, unfortunately, I am without one that large, but I do believe I have one to house your book.
Okay. I would really appreciate that.
Give me just a moment. And she steps back up, and within a few minutes, she comes back down, and she found one that looks moderately fancy. It doesn't quite match the same sort of filigree that the coat has, but it is in similar colors. So she does present it and say, I do believe that this might work.
I think it's perfect. And she will slip her book in there and then dart back up the stairs to go leave the staff behind.
Fiona won't get confiscated too.
If
No.
the Margrave confiscates our dear Fiona, I will personally be filing a grievance, and there will be a diplomatic issue. More out of confusion than anything. As Fiona is beautifully made.
Think of
Kind
her
of
as your
like-
accessory.
I kind of twirl Fiona in my hands and say, a party of this scale, I wouldn't want to be without my +1.
Aw.
I glance over at
Under,
Fairway.
as you finish that, you do hear a very light voice come from the violin that goes, oh. Teleporting butler who is at your beck and call is fine, but a talking violin is not.
Jules is just a really good butler.
That's what they all do.
Yeah.
The amount of denial in this party.
Oh, it's
It's
thick.
like,
Mm-hmm.
Fucking short sword.
It's a DM's dream.
Is fine.
You get one talking inanimate
Inanimate
object,
object.
okay? And Gladius talked
per
first.
person. No, it's per person, right?
Yeah.
To make Cujo do a bunch of stupid, silly voices.
I'm already going to be running a gala encounter with a
I
bunch
know.
of stuffy nobles. Don't add numbers.
Wait, let me get that stone from the bag of holding that talks too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Take it out of the box
Yeah.
too.
No,
Take it out of the
leave
And
bag.
we
it in
magically
the
gave Tick a
box.
voice box.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Within a few moments, Saberlina says, I do believe the carriages are arriving. Everybody looks wonderful. And do your best to enjoy yourselves as much as be presentable to the upper crust, if you don't mind. And she says that with the lightest and most loving of tones. Mostly looking at Dermot.
As everyone goes
I'm
past
looking
him,
at Cat.
as everyone's like filing out the door, Thurston actually pulls like out of his pocket like just a bunch of small little like half note cards that just have like 4 or 5 bullet points. It's like,
Conversation starters.
here you go. Like, these are the rules. Just stick to these. Thanks, guys.
Cujo, how close are these to the rules of this? Like, Faraday looks at them, and I assume they are nothing like rules to the Sealy Court. Like, she has been to things like this.
Absolutely not. The Sealy Court.
But, like...
I feel like with the Feywild, you almost have to find that thing that makes you most interesting, even if you hate it, and blow that out of proportion.
Yeah.
With nobility in Tal'Dorei, not so much. It's just as much a battlefield as it is a dinner and a dance.
That's fair.
Excellent.
You all step into the carriages and feel them begin to move. Takes about 45 minutes or so. You can see that the streets are a little bit more quiet than usual as it has crept into the evening at this point, whether that's from the increased patrols or if that's just because it's a weeknight or what have you. Eventually, you do start to notice that the area you are riding through go from standard Western, marketplace, living quarters, that sort of thing, to much, much higher crust. As you are starting to turn into the largest estate in the city. This estate is as much a mansion as can be. The grounds are mammoth and filled with all sorts of garden accoutrement. You can see several shields are monitoring pretty much every entrance and exit as you are approaching this. Basically, I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, the house from Clue times, like, 3. This thing is huge. And your carriages have essentially fallen in line with several others that are starting to make their way in down the driveway towards the entrance. Let me do this little thing here. You can start to hear sounds coming from within as you step out of these carriages to large Grecian columns that open up into a large receiving area with all sorts of sculptures and beautiful flowers. The finery and tapestries are breathtaking. This is the most ornately decorated place you guys have been in, period. And you are met with a few essentially help who offer to take the carriages to the stables, offer any hors d'oeuvres as you guys essentially are led into the estate itself. The place is filled with all sorts of nobility. Every member of the upper crust of Western has arrived, each wearing different gowns of different colors, either celebrating their families or some possibly exerting their fashion sense from traveling abroad, coming back from Marquette or from Isilra. There are people from all over who have arrived. So this room that you're in is essentially a large foyer where everybody is milling about. There are servants that are approaching anybody without a glass in their hand to offer a glass of wine or champagne. What do you guys do?
Walking in, do we recognize, are there any individuals we can recognize that are in attendance?
Make a perception check.
Can I make a perception check to recognize specifically if there's anybody that I recognize from my time in Marquette and or from Whelpmount?
Yeah, go ahead and make a perception check as well.
Thurston, number 3 is smudged on my paper. What is that supposed to say?
18.
That is, please refrain from profanity. Thank you.
Okay. I will try.
that right there, that
Mm.
okay. I can't wait for Summer Faraday to actually like let her wings out.
Yeah.
Oof.
Dermot kind of nudges Faraday
Yep. Uh
Oh,
in
Oh,
the
no.
side on hearing that and says, "Yeah, fuck that, eh?"
oh.
I rolled an 11. So probably didn't
11.
notice
Okay.
much.
With an 18, wow, Arthea, you can spot a couple people. You can spot Elric Woodward, the son of Lamar, who you had encountered a couple of times. He is making the rounds. He has a glass of wine in his hand, and he is associating with two dwarves, actually, that look a little bit differently dressed than everybody else at the gala. These dwarves are wearing, well, armor, but nicer armor. They wanted to at least do something to celebrate the occasion. So they broke out the ceremonial plate mail.
Yes.
Do you think they make leather like that?
I think you could probably get tooled leather. That's very fancy, yes.
No, it has to be studded or it's useless. Maybe I'll ask Gilmore next time we see him.
Suppose it
Yeah,
just matters what the studs are.
and I guess
You want
how
them
what
diamond?
patterns they're arranged in.
I guess if they made them look something like that fancy coat you're wearing would be bad. And I say that kind of gesturing between both Arthea and Thurston.
And Cadriel, you look around and you can spot some of the fashion of Marquette and Wildmount in general, but in terms of recognizable faces, then nobody's really kind of ringing any bells. Mostly because you can't quite. It's weird. You can't tell if they are actually from Marquette or if they're just, oh, look at this wonderful piece I picked up while I was abroad, that sort of thing. But yeah, nobody that you recognize from Marquette.
Well,
As you all are sort of making your way inside and taking in the sights, you are approached by a human male servant, a server, I should say, who's got a platter filled with all sorts of champagne flutes and says, "Would you like a beverage?"
Of course, thank you.
Saberlina says, "Oh, thank you, quietly," and she takes a sip.
Cat takes one, but like necks it.
I didn't put that on the card.
Hermit will take two and hand one to Faraday.
yeah, we'll take one.
Enjoy the evening, and they step away to provide drinks to other people. And you can hear. Yeah, I was debating doing this, but you guys have sort of made your way inside, so you're kind of not surrounded by people, but there are just groups of people chatting, making conversation around you, enjoying the drinks and the hors d'oeuvres and all that. And you hear from the front entrance, "All right, I heard there was a sexy party going on in here. Where do we start?" And you look and see a gnome
Ah!
God.
with a full curled mustache, wearing a purple formal dress with a multicolored what would you call
Codpiece?
that?
Codpiece.
Codpiece.
Thank you. Complete with beret on top of his head.
I see
You
his better
see,
half.
not too far behind, you can see a recognizable gnome with white hair. She's actually dressed a little bit, not like full on fucking ball gown, but she is dressed nicer, wearing robes of Sarenrae that seem to be more for more formal events. And she is a few steps behind and rolling her eyes. Dear Pike and Scanlan Shorthalt have arrived. One of the servants says, sir, we do not engage in that sort of debauchery here. Ah, nonsense! All of you blue bloods love that sort of shit. And he downs a thing of champagne and puts it back on the platter and walks in and starts strutting his stuff.
I think he just violated all of the rules in a single sentence.
I like him.
What is...
He does know that
Sorry.
we can see the
Yes,
full
I'm just like, what are
doorway.
you doing? Why? Like, I'm doing something. The thing that I do every
Everyone-
Wednesday. Same time.
Oh, Ash.
Does that mean that the rules
sorry.
on this card are just bullshit?
No. Just because somebody else breaks the rules doesn't mean that you break the rules. We would have utter societal chaos if that were the case.
You say that just as Pike is stepping up with a glass of champagne.
I just
Hello,
say,
everyone.
hi, Pike. Quite the entrance your other half made.
Much to my chagrin. How's everybody doing?
You know, Thurston, I pat Thurston on the arm. He's quite happy with dressing up tonight. And as I pat Thurston on the arm, I would like to use sleight of hand to slip that card he handed me back in his pocket.
Roll sleight of hand. And Thurston, what is your passive perception?
16.
28.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus.
You basically could have taken Thurston's coat off of him without him realizing it.
He really likes that code.
28.
nice
I'm
coat.
just putting that out there.
Thurston keeps looking at, like...
There's too many people to keep track of. He's got to clock everyone.
He's like, huh? And then his eyes keep going to Scanlan, like, I don't understand that. And then, like, he looks at Scanlan, and then he looks at Pike, and he's like, I don't. He's trying, there's a cognitive, like, how does that work?
I mean, on the positive side, maybe we won't be the ones to
Cause a scene.
Yeah.
Pike does catch that glimpse and says, when there's no drinking or debauchery, things are great. It's just rare when those moments happen. She takes another drink. Sabalina says, Lamar Whitward is right over there. We should go and introduce ourselves. Make our greetings. Everybody, professional. And she says that as Lamar is finishing discussing, or just a small conversation with one group of people before turning and says, oh, hello. Wonderful to see you again, Sabalina. And he takes her hands and does the kiss on each cheek. Looking marvelous, darling. Oh, thank you, Lamar. It's wonderful to see you in such calm and wonderful circumstances. And Lamar turns and says, and young Thurston, wonderful to see you again, sir. And he gives a bow.
You as well?
Elric, dear boy. And you see Elric turn. And he does a polite goodbye and kind of does the power walk up. Sorry. Hi, how are you guys doing? Nice to see you again.
Yes, good to see you as well. No worries about rushing over, of course. It's a party.
Lamar says, oh, nonsense. The guests of honor should be treated as such. We are going to be beginning the festivities shortly, so I would delight in speaking with you regarding some business decisions and whatnot as the party goes on, assuming that is all right, of course.
Of course. I do, of course, need to just touch base with my sister and her new husband, the true honorees of tonight. So.
Of course. I believe they should be, and you hear people being put, you could see almost like Jaws where you can tell like the shark fin coming up. You just see this people start parting as you hear heels clacking across the ground as the crowd parts, and you can see in slow motion Gracia sprinting towards you. Her hair done up, she looks beautiful. And even though she is 100% breaking pretty much all of those rules on that little card, she looks divine as she runs up and like leaps on you and gives you a big old hug. To which Sabelina says, "Wonderful. I'm really glad all those etiquette lessons went to good use."
I lean
paid
over to
attention.
Faraday and say, "Glad I slipped that rules card back in Thurston's pocket."
As there are some partygoers who kind of look over like, "Oh my god, what is that? How dare they?" Like, just stupid, pompous bullshit. Gracie says, "Oh my god, I'm so glad you got to wear that. I know you've been wanting to wear that for such a long time."
It's pretty fantastic. I'm very excited. I was honestly worried it wouldn't fit after I've been traveling for so long.
Oh, well, I wouldn't trust you to gorge yourself on rations and stuff while you're traveling around, so.
That is a swear word, and there's no swearing at a party of this nature.
And she turns and, "Mother, it is nice to see you." And Sabelina says, "Wonderful to see you too, darling. It's only been a few days, but it couldn't have come sooner enough." And Sabelina gives her a hug. You can sense this slight tension there.
I was gonna say, can I roll an insight check on
You
that?
can, by all means, roll it.
Yeah.
Just roll the new dice.
Yes.
Oh.
Natural 20 for me.
14. 15 total. Not
Nice.
bad.
What about... Shit, my bonuses are different today.
Yes, my bonuses are different too.
Yeah.
For quite a few
Yeah.
things.
11 insight for me.
Okay.
2.
With a
24
15.
total.
21.
Okay. Damn. Jesus. I forget this is the ace team. With a 15 or higher, you definitely clock. There is, I don't want to say malice, because it's not. It's extreme displeasure for just like a micro expression as Gracia looks at Lady Nollard. But that micro expression fades very quickly, as you can see, even though she was just breaking all of the courtly laws to run up and hug her brother, she is much more skilled at this game than she lets on, as she lets that veil of courtly lady come over her face, and she does give the hug and the kisses on the side. Hi, I even feel like I haven't seen you guys in forever. And she runs up and just kind of like lightly hugs each of you, and then asks, "Tell me, have you gotten Thurston drunk yet? Please tell me you have. I need more embarrassing stories about my brother."
Did we...
And that's the
Well,
first thing that
Did you
came to mind.
guys?
We've only just arrived, so the night is young.
Hmm.
He did have
Funny
some
thing
fire
about-
wisdom while we were traveling, though.
Yes, we did
Ooh.
have some of that.
I like
I
that.
think everyone behaved, though.
Hmm.
The
Well-
circumstances required us to have our wits about us on that one.
Hmm. Funny thing about being one of the guests of honor is I can 100% order one of the servants to just continue to offer my dearest brother all of the drinks.
Thank you. Your hospitality would not ever be forgotten, dearest
Aw.
sister.
Speaking of guests of honor, congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you.
Yes.
It was
Congratulations.
quite stressful, but it was good. It was great. And she's actually wearing a deep red with a gold lining gown that sort of, splays out. Splays out? That sounds bad. That sounds terrible.
No, that's right.
She also
Claire.
has a little shawl wrapped around her to keep warm, as I'm sure some fashion designers think, "Oh, this will be fine. It looks great." But in reality, it's like, it's a scarf, and you're asking me to put it around my shoulders.
It's a shame we couldn't make it. I'm sure Dermot would have made it quite the party for you.
Oh, I definitely would have loved that. It would have been absolutely one of my absolute favorite things to have happened at my wedding. And she says those
Well-
words very clearly.
We're here now, so allow me to make it up to you. It's a gift of sorts.
Perhaps after dinner, but absolutely. I will clear it with the security people just to make sure that they know that you are part of the entertainment. Oh, that reminds me. We got the Ben Mezd. They're here. They're going to be performing after dinner.
Oh,
Fantastic.
We haven't
Yes.
seen the
them in
Ben
a
Mezd in
while.
quite some time.
You saw the Ben Mezd?
Whitestone, we
Whitestone, yeah.
Faraday and Dermot performed with them.
We traveled with them for a week or
A
so.
couple
I
weeks.
wonder if it's
Yeah, we
too
did.
late to divorce and become an adventurer. That sounds amazing.
You could still become an adventurer.
That's true. I don't think it requires being single.
I'll bring him with.
As you say that, excusing himself through the crowd, you see Algar looking very regal, wearing essentially a military uniform, decorated with all sorts of symbols and badges and small ribbons. Approaches with closely cropped blonde hair and like a rapier, like a ceremonial rapier at his side, and regards everybody. What are we discussing? Hello, everyone. By the way, it's wonderful to see you all again.
It's wonderful to see you as well, brother.
A pleasure. We were just discussing congratulations first on your wedding, and further congratulations on and then gesturing to the both of them, your new career as adventurers. It's quite the life.
I was not aware of the career shift so soon after
And-
my promotion. That's
and
truly
we have
something to
Thurston's-
celebrate.
I give Thurston's sister a wink.
Gracia takes her arm, it puts her arm in between Algar's and just says, I'm just saying, it would be a really awesome, consistent vacation. We can go wherever we want.
It does require sleeping in literal dirt.
I'm
That is
suddenly
not-
rethinking our career change. Sorry, guys. It was really fun
Only
to
if-
think
Not
about.
true.
Only if you're bad at it.
And as everyone
And
says
we are
that,
getting
like, he's like
very
elbowing
good.
you, like, shut the fuck up.
Like that, we even have that really nice tent.
It's at this point that some of one of the servants says, if everyone will please make their way this way, we will begin dinner. And you see several large double doors open into a huge, like, dining room. Like, this room is honestly the size of like a gymnasium. Think, you know the scene in Beauty and the Beast where they're dancing to Beauty and the Beast? That sort of style, where it kind of has these large windows that open up into a huge courtyard in the middle of the property. Sabelina sort of leads all of you through. And you can see that your table, where you all are scheduled to sit and eat at, is right next to essentially like a wedding party table that sort of faces everybody else in the room. It is immediately to the right, so you guys are able to sit. Before everybody has started seating themselves, you can see that there are several servants who are making the rounds asking for drink orders. Does anybody order anything to drink?
You asked that so carefully, I have concerns.
I ask for a bottle of your finest wine.
No, he froze. We'll never know what he ordered.
To be arranged, sir.
I'll ask if they have any of the honey meat from Nicodranas.
We absolutely do. I can bring a bottle of that as well if you'd like.
Wonderful.
I would actually partake in that as well.
Wonderful.
Make it 2 bottles.
Yes. Well, for the table.
Actually, make it 3, Pike says as she pulls up her seat.
Mike, it's so good to see you. There's so many things I've been wanting to talk to you about.
Well, there's so many things I'd like to talk to you guys about as well. Nothing major, just
Thanks.
spending time with my husband is great. You see the servant run off and come back with several bottles of alcohol and just places them on the table. Well, what's been going on?
A lot. I mean, well, I
Yeah.
suppose mine's more personal in nature, but we've definitely noticed things going on around town that perhaps we could meet up in a more private setting to discuss.
This place is rather large. I'm sure there might be a study or a lounge of some kind that we can definitely raid at some point.
How are your sneaking skills?
What sneaking skills? And she says as
Dermot
she grunts,
says, surely that's not a conversation that needs to be addressed now. Later.
I'd say under better circumstances, for sure. As everybody is sort of still milling about and eventually finding their way towards their tables, you do hear a little bit of a commotion coming from one of the entryways, as there appears to be a half-elf gentleman and a tiefling that are having rather harsh words with one of the servants as they try to get inside. Some of the other servants sort of go to support and offer a means of de-escalation before eventually one of the shields approaches, and after a very short conversation you see this half-elf gentleman with sort of sandy blonde hair, a little bit messy, and this tiefling with a long sort of gray braid that sort of cascades down over one shoulder, slowly back away and start turning and making their way back towards the entrance.
Tell how they were dressed.
You could see that they were, decently dressed by an adventurer's standards, but in terms of upper crust nobility that you're seeing on display, they were not meeting the business casual attire requirement.
Okay.
This sound set is creepy. And as that sort of draws your attention, you sort of turn back towards each other. You see that occupying one of the seats next to Pike is that same gnome. He says, "Ooh, who pissed in his Cheerios?" And he takes a shot. How's everybody doing?
Fantastic. I apologize. I don't think we've been formally introduced. Lord Thurston Dollard.
I am Lord Burt Reynolds, and Pike just reaches up and grabs the mustache and yanks it off. Enough.
I did not realize
I
that was
am
fake.
the Bard Extraordinaire, one Scanlan Shorthalt. Pleasure to make your acquaintance, Lord Nollard. And he takes another shot.
Are you sure you wouldn't prefer us to call you the Meat Man?
Why are we?
He definitely looks around a little bit. And Pike says, "Yeah, we actually need to be careful about that. We definitely got some people who look like they're from Marquette." And Scanlan goes, "I know that. Why do you think I was avoiding them? I was doing the long circle around them, trying to make the rounds. I did find some saucy lords' wives, though. They might be into some shit."
Don't you have a wife?
Well, yeah.
Can't raise an eyebrow at his
I'm
wife
just information
That's-
gathering.
standing right next to it.
I'm just gathering intel. I'm not going to do anything that would be incredibly rude and disrespectful to my wonderful and radiant, beautiful wife. And Pike goes, "Yeah, thanks."
What is the expression on Sabelina's face right now?
Make me an insight check.
It's really
You
low
know.
DC. I'm sure.
Where I'm from in Nicodranas, the
15.
tradition is that the last person to the table is supposed to get everybody a round of shots.
As you say that, Thurston, you look at Sabelina, and she has this look that she would give you when you're a kid, and you're trying to negotiate bedtime, when to do your homework, when it should be your responsibility to do some of your own chores beyond that of the help. She has this sort of muted smile, almost like, "Oh, you stupid, stupid fool." She's got that and then some, and she just merely leans forward. Mr. Shorthalt, I would very much encourage you to restrain yourself from your barbaric activities for the night, if it is at all possible. And she gives that steely glare. And Scanlan puts the third shot glass down. Wonderful party. And just like panicked looks over at Pike and she shakes her head. Dinner is served. Just for the sake of time and my lack of preparation for what dinner you're eating. If you have questions, I'm sure I'll Google something.
You didn't make a menu?
No, I didn't make a menu.
Mujo, what are we eating?
Sam
How
made a
many
menu
courses
when
are
had a
we
dinner
eating?
party the other day.
I
It's
made a
3
menu
course
and a
meal.
seating chart.
You did.
3-course meal. The salad was nice. The chicken was a little dry.
That's why you
What
have to
was
get
the
a
dessert?
fantasy cookbook.
Yeah. Sorbet.
Ooh, I love sorbet.
See? There you go. Anyway, everybody make perception checks.
Rudy. Perception.
Am I good at that? Oh, yeah,
Am I
I'm good at
good?
Mm.
Is that a thing I
22.
do?
It depends on the
So it's-
character.
13.
Perception. 6.
21.
Is that a 21?
Court, the jury is still out on these dice. So far, it
9.
favors 5s. I rolled a 5 and then a 15.
Okay. With a 15 or above, you can look around and see that while everybody is enjoying their dinner, there are a couple of people who have sort of meandered in between tables to continue conversations, start new ones, visit friends, what have you. With a 15, you can see Lamar Woodward stopping by specific people at a couple of the tables before he makes his way towards yours. Thurston, seated next to your mother, he does lean down. I actually did have a rather special presentation for yourselves, along with the Margrave and some others in the business. If you would like, we can step away after dinner, if you would like, just to discuss business transactions and whatnot. So we're not pulling some of the entertainment away from the rest of the patrons here.
Well, I suppose that if the Margrave will be stepping away from the party for a moment, it wouldn't be deemed impolite to do so. I'd be happy to meet with you.
Wonderful. Speaking of the Margrave, I forgot to describe him. I also forgot his name. I swear to God, I know I've done prep, guys. Don't judge me.
Dude McDudeface.
Duder
Fine, you don't know
McDude.
his name either. And he probably looks, just as fancy as the rest of these folk.
Well,
Fluffy McUggity.
Margrave Zimmerset. Seated at the table next to Algar and Gracia, and next to Lamar and Elric, sort of seated in the center is Margrave Zimmerset. The Margrave is also wearing a very, very military-inspired outfit, complete with a sort of cloak, half cloak cape thing. He is very, I don't want to say aged, but he's battle worn in that you can still see some visible scars kind of crawling up the side of the face and along the neck. He has a very steely gaze as he looks around the room, as he's got a little bit of a receding hairline and ashen gray hair that sort of comes down to just above the shoulder line. With that 15, also, you guys do recognize that while Algar and Gracia are the guests of honor and the Margrave is the host, the Woodwards are also positioned at that table at the front of everything. With a 20 or above, you can see that Elric is hitting the alcohol a little hard, as he seems to be perturbed by something. And it's noticeable that Lamar has, on more than one occasion during dinner, done a slight elbow to Elric's side as he regains his senses for the moment. It's at this point that you can see coming through one of the entrances, there are several people wearing red and gold robes, wearing masquerade masks adorned with beautiful horns and decorations and colors. They all are leading in this big red case or box of some kind that's set on 4 wheels, almost as if they are coaxing a bull out of its pen. It's at this point that everybody's voices start to hush as the presentation from the Ben Mezd is about to begin. As it does, you do see a handful of nobles, along with the Margrave, Algar, and the Widwards, rise from their tables, and they start to collect themselves on one end of the room. Lamar does look towards your table and eyes Thurston and Sabelina and gestures for them to join.
I am apparently being summoned. Apologies, but enjoy the show, and if I don't get a chance to see them, please apologize to the Ben Mezd for me for missing out.
I'll tell them you say hello.
You and Sabelina both rise and make your way to join the other nobles. You walk through this large, beautiful hallway, and you're still hearing murmurs of light conversation sort of echoing off of the walls amongst the other party goers, as you are seeing beautiful artwork and other, sculptures and decoration. Before you're led to a part of the courtyard that is more like an outdoor amphitheater with stone steps that lead up that function as seats for those who are not nobility. They do have set up some tables with some chairs circled around the other side. And in the center, you can see a sword sort of presented on a pedestal that is made of this deep purplish, almost onyx looking material. And it seems to kind of have this little haze around it. As everybody seats themselves, and the Margrave also finds his seat not too far from you guys, Lamar steps forward and says, "Welcome, lords and ladies. I had gathered you all as it is time to present the most recent development with regards to..." Oh my God, I swear to God, I have the names.
While you're finding that, quick question. Did
Sure.
Gracia come with or just Algar?
Just Algar.
Can I, as they're slipping out, I would like to get up from the table and just gonna say, I'm gonna go find the restroom. And I would like to kind of slip off into the crowd as stealthy as possible and follow them.
Okay, make me...
As you get up, I just whisper to you, don't do anything stupid.
Damn it. Mind your own business. And I slip off.
At
that little exchange, Pike goes,
not going to the
Cadriel, go ahead and make me a stealth check.
22.
Okay. You essentially sneak... you Assassin's Creed with that group of people through the hallway, and for a brief moment you think you saw a guard turn and look at you before he was distracted by the fire breathing that's going on with the Ben Mezd presentation. Feeling satisfied, you are following behind this group of people.
And as they take their seats, there's just since it's essentially getting dark, my coat was a purple before with a little silver on it. I'll have it go all black.
Okay.
And kind of duck off into a shadow by say, like a tree or something,
Sure.
just so that I'm out of the way, but can still see in here.
Yeah, there are definitely like shrubs and small trees and whatnot that are in this courtyard for you to hide behind. Lamar continues and says, "It is time that I and my family present the discoveries of one Hadi Bronzegrip and myself. Hadi making her way all the way from Craghammer to be a part of tonight's festivities. And you see one of the dwarves that had been clocked earlier in the night stand. She is stands taller than most dwarves. Her hair is still a mess, but she does have two braids that come down across her temples and one thick one that cascades across the back of her neck. She does have like a dark blue face paint, representative of some possible warrior paint or something like that. But she does step forward and sort of nod to Lamar with a smirk on her face. Lamar says, "Gentlemen, if you will," and you see two shields approach from different parts of the courtyard. Now, up until this point, our combat methods were respectable and to be understood as means of protection, which is important. And you can see that the two shields have drawn wooden swords and begin sparring with each other. However, the weaponry that we have possessed, especially with the escalation of the mages in Iman, and with the ghouls and goblins seeming to up their ante, you hear a couple like shuddered giggles. We have decided that it was time to provide more in terms of our arsenal. And as the shields finish their sparring, Lamar approaches the sword and picks it up from the pedestal and presents it to one of the shields. Lamar then steps to the side and says, "Begin." And before they do, you do see this moment where the other shield kind of stutters a little bit and looks back at Lamar, but then steels himself. And you see them begin combat once more. The one bearing this sword at one point does get one up and disarms the shield and slashes down, carving through the armor. And you can see this pulse go through the blade. And you watch the Western shield who took the wound shudder for a moment before collapsing to the ground. You see the one still standing feel a little exhausted, but he does regard Lamar and gives a bow as a cleric approaches and quickly heals the one that's on the ground. Lamar steps forward again. With the discovery of Jadek and learning from the esteemed Bronzegrip of its malleability, we have come up with new weaponry that uses more of its wielder's strength to deliver a decisive blow against any combatants we may come across. This material can be applied to any melee weaponry, arrowheads, crossbow bolts, cannons. This is a substantially more powerful metal that we can work with to equip every shield with this at their disposal. All for the realm. And you definitely hear some slight claps coming from all the nobility. You even, Thurston and Cad, make me a perception check.
Miss Jackson.
Miss Jackson, okay.
14.
Okay. With a 14, as Lamar finishes this introduction for Jadek weaponry, you can almost hear people giggle and applaud with all of the enthusiasm. Thurston, you, with a 20, you can see that the shield who took the wound The cleric has healed them and they are conscious, but they are still deeply disturbed, as the wound should have healed over more, given the amount of energy that the cleric had put forward. Also, you could see Elric, not really keyed in to what happened, sort of looking off to the side with a forlorn expression on his face. Lamar says, "We can begin production of these immediately, of course with your approval, Margrave Zimmerset. These weapons can be supplied to every shield within Western within 3 months' time. We would, of course, need a little bit of time for manufacturing, and an official sponsor from the Margrave himself would quite go a long way in ensuring the expediency with which these are provided." And Margrave nods and, "I will have my assistant deliver papers to you in the morning. This is quite impressive. How stable is this material?" A wonderful question. This material is, by many smith standards, to be considered masterwork. So it is of exceptional quality with no timetable to allow any wear and tear on the edges of each blade that we craft. As such, I do find that I believe most mages would consider this to be almost a magical weapon of some kind, when in reality, it is merely the properties of the material itself that provide such masterwork quality.
If I may. Who else has access to this material?
Would just be, it's an exclusive amongst Western shields, and any nobility whose security wishes to be upgraded. And you can definitely hear a few more giggles amongst the small group.
And I suppose, have we thought about what happens when others receive their hands on it? It's an exclusive now, but my time away from home has taught me that a weapon in one person's hand does not stay there for very long.
Ever the adventurer. There would be no eventuality, as these weapons would be housed within the very shield headquarters, with little to no access without express approval from either our newly appointed High Shield. And you see everybody, there's a small applause that breaks out. It's like every time it's mentioned, people have to applaud. Algar just kind of regards everybody. Or the Margrave himself. Any other questions? And you do hear a rather large noble say, when can we get our hands on some of these? They are mighty impressive. I would love to buy that sword right there. I've seen it perform myself. I would like to throw down 3,000 gold right now if I could take that one home with me.
Why are they always Texan?
Because
Always.
it's the easiest one for me to pull out of my ass. Is that not clear?
Always the one to volunteer first to pay for this kind of shit is from Texas. Always.
Doesn't
mean,
that seem accurate?
It
Yeah.
does. Is he wearing like a big white Stetson too?
Yes. He's got tassels coming down his jacket arms.
Lord Alamo, maybe this is not something you should take to the table with you today.
Where's my
That
NPC
was
list?
amazing.
Lord Alamo. It has been marked. It is so. That does conclude our presentation. Lord Alamo, I will... if you would like to linger behind, I'm sure we can discuss some sort of arrangement for you bringing this slightly soiled piece home with you. You see, Lamar gestures to a servant who runs up and presents a handkerchief, and he begins wiping blood from the blade. Lamar says, "I look forward to continuing to do business with all of you, as I like to think of you all as family, just as much as my own. I cannot say how much I appreciate your investment, and let us rise for the good of the realm. He, fetches a glass from that same servant and raises it, and everybody, here, here, raises their glass and vibes. There you go. Everybody starts to gather themselves back up and start to head towards the presentation from the Ben Mez once again. Thurston and Cadriel, what do you do?
I will hang back a little bit and just kind of like duck around the tree as they file out past me. But I keep my eye on Thurston. You know how like you kind of do that thing if somebody sees you across the store and you don't want to shout, but you like kind of look at them, see if they.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of watch Thurston, and I specifically watch Elric as he files out, who I know has been drinking heavily for the last.
Yeah. I will say, as you're keeping an eye on Elric, you do catch, as everybody has risen and started to file out, Lamar, after speaking with Lord Alamo for a moment, there is an exchange of gold, and you see Lord Alamo sheathe this beautiful blade in his ostentatious ceremonial belt. He does turn and essentially beeline for Elric. There is a short, tense conversation. Elric means to step away, and Lamar grabs him by the arm and turns him back and says one more thing before dropping Elric's arm. And
Can I
Elric,
hear it all what they're saying, or are they too far away?
make a perception check.
15, or no. 17, sorry. I cannot, I swear.
With the 17, you catch a few words. Mainly from Elric, as he's the one that you can kind of see. Lamar has his back turned to you a little bit from your perspective. You can hear, I don't want to be a part of this. This is insane. It's not safe. Just let me do my thing, you do yours. Essentially, before he breaks away from Lamar and starts heading back towards the party. Thurston, what do you do?
Thurston is actually going to hang back. He'll kind of usually, of course, like as you're going into and out of a room, he would have his mother's arm and like would just go. He'll just kind of just gesture for her to. I'll follow along shortly.
You see Saberlina kind of look at you. Everything all right, dear?
Of course. I just have a few more questions.
All right, I will see you in the party momentarily. And she kind of gives that look like, please don't mess this up, before she starts walking back towards the party. Lamar has collected himself and starts making his way towards the group and then sees you. Yes, young Thurston. How may I assist you?
Forgive me. I obviously missed the primary negotiation, so I am a bit behind and playing catch up on the entire situation. So I figured I'd come to the man himself to get clarity, if that's all right.
Of course. As business partners, what is an arrangement without open communication?
Of course. This new metal, these weapons, have they been independently tested and verified?
Yes, we have actually had several shields under the guidance of Lord Algar Brothric test them himself.
Apologies. I meant a more of a third party. I've just found in my own time, testing products for things that the Nallard estate would sell. Sometimes it helps to have another party involved do a little bit of a test, confirmation bias, and that sort of thing.
Well, given that the Woodward family, and I must have skated under your... I understand you've had a lot going on. The Woodward family has been the chief supplier and distributor to the Margrave and the Shields for decades now. This third party devoting themselves to their field testing was with the Brothric family, as they had position themselves in the training and manning of several of these shields.
Thank you for clarifying. Just wanted to make sure I properly understood the dynamics of the situation.
I sense your. Perhaps it is just the festivities, the excitement of the presentation. I sense disturbance. Is everything all right
Of
with
course.
this arrangement?
The arrangement is completely sound. There's nothing wrong there. It's, well, spending more time outside of the estate and in other situations, seeing the realities of actual combat in a way that, and I mean this with all due politeness, perhaps most of our fellow nobles are not familiar with. Stronger weapons perhaps only lead to stronger enemies. And I would hate to cause Taldore or Western or anyone in the realm further harm because we goaded someone into developing something that could hurt us back after creating this.
See, that's. I'd wish to have this conversation elsewhere, truth be told. This investment is revolutionary, and this material that we are working with is breaking ground in multiple fields, and I apologize that I had not had this conversation with you sooner. If you're going to be involved, I would hope that there is trust implicitly with the business decisions that are made. I would hate to see what would happen if that trust were to be broken.
I am in no way saying our business dealings are not going forth. It is a perhaps philosophical concern. Nothing that you would do, but looking at historical precedents. That's all. Philosophy, not reality.
Well, if I may make one recommendation, I would encourage not disturbing any operations that you may know of, similar to the one in Turst Fields that you were involved in. And you see his expression shift.
Well, any operation that is a part of our agreed terms would, of course, be left to flourish as they should.
I suppose, let me hit the nail a little bit more on the head. The agreed terms are that any clasp activity and any shield weapons production activity would be left alone by you and your friends. Otherwise, your deep, dark family secret is actually leaked to the entire nobility. And you see he is wearing a similar expression that Sabelina does.
Thurston, who has seen that face a lot, built up a little bit of a tolerance. Well, I will be sure to review the particulars written in our contract now that I'm back home for a period of time and ensure that I am adhering to that contract.
While you are reading the fine print, do me just one gesture, a show of good faith. Just ask yourself, did you really think that your mother just happened across a family and an orphan child who had the mysterious gift that you do? Or do you think she reached out for assistance? Enjoy the party. And he steps away and makes his way towards the ballroom.
Thurston kind of stays there for a second. Is anybody else around? Like I know Cad's hiding in the corner, but
I mean, you know
the
that there are
shields
some.
left. Yeah.
The shields left. The nobles have left. There are some servants that are like tending to the garden, and like that's about it. But nobody really within that you know of any earshot. Cad, I would say go ahead and roll me another perception check. I'll say with advantage, given that nobody else was around to soak up any of the noise.
27.
You caught every word.
After a moment, Thurston just takes a deep breath and puts the noble, like, face back on that he should have on at this moment and begins to head back inside. But he does not catch Cad's, hey, I'm trying to make eye contact with you, because he's too lost in his own head.
Got it.
Yeah, waits till Thurston goes in, and then she takes kind of like a roundabout way back in, as if she was just out for a walk.
Okay.
Like as if she just excused herself for some air and a stroll. And on the way back in, she looks for Elric.
You take this roundabout means, and you can see Elric has made his way back into the party at this point. He did lag behind a little bit. Like, as you're making your way towards the door, he is actually just maybe 15, 20 feet in front of you, walking through to get his spot back at the table.
I'll try to kind of like catch up with him and be like, and just say, it's been a while since I've seen you around town.
Hi, Cad. Hi, how are you? Nice to see you again.
You as well.
Yeah. It's been a frenetic bit of activity in the city here. Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to kind of keep up.
Indeed. Are you
Yeah.
enjoying the evening? I have to admit, this is not really my scene, but...
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's not really mine either. But hey, the open bar is kind of nice, and the food wasn't terrible. Plus, you know,
the chicken was a little dry, but...
It was a little dry, unfortunately. But, you know, I do actually think that the Ben Mezd are going to be doing an encore performance. So, you know, we should definitely catch that. Have you ever seen them perform?
We have in Whitestone. Some of ours, Dermot and Faraday especially, performed with them. And we traveled with them for a little while.
Oh, wow.
It was certainly an experience. Would you
Awesome.
like to perhaps get a drink before seeing the encore of the performance?
Make me a persuasion check.
7.
With a 7, he says, I would really like to. That sounds awesome. Can I catch up with you after the performance at some point?
Of course. I'll be
Awesome.
around the party.
Yeah, I'll be around. Sounds good. And he kind of turns and half stumbles, catches himself as he makes his way back to the table. Everybody else. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to say, after that, I'll just make my way kind of like slowly back to the table and just... It's really hard to find the bathroom in this place. There are a lot of doors.
While all of that was happening, the Ben Mezd, leading in this large crimson crate, moving all through the crowd almost as if they are exhibiting the traits of each kind of dragon or a drake of some kind, crawling close to the ground and moving almost like a Cirque du Soleil production. As each of them turns and gestures towards the crate, you see it blow apart. The crate itself blows apart as this beautiful sculpture of a dragon's head sort of sprouts out as more of some sort of silken fabric rolls out to show the body, and you can spot one Eldariel positioned at the base, sort of piloting this gigantic sculpture of a golden dragon. This presentation of this dragon flying around, almost, it's entirely, it's not magic by any means, but you couldn't help but react as some of the people say, it almost breathed fire upon me, like almost as if they're buying into whatever's going on. You witness this beautiful portrayal of a group of heroes that stand against this golden dragon and do this half dance, half combat, half like a haka from Australia. This beautiful performance as it ends with this swirling motion of this dragon sort of coiling around as Eldariel presents themselves once again, this time wearing a regal robe and crown. It's just a beautiful performance that goes and goes until it finally does conclude, as the band that had been accompanying them does finish this beautiful song, and everybody stands and applauds. As they take in the appreciation, they turn and regard everybody. Eldariel, with a natural 19, does turn towards your table and mean to do this same similar bow before recognizing you.
I just tip my hat.
And you see, as he does the bow, he turns and murmurs something to some of the other performers. And you see some of them turn their heads and look in your direction as well, and you see big, beautiful, genuine smiles across their faces. As Eldariel then turns towards Gracia, who is alone at this head table, by the way. She is enamored, and he approaches and says, "My dear, may we grace everyone with an encore? We would need the use of your table as a stage, however." And Gracie says, "Yeah, whatever you need. Yeah, totally." And she gestures to some of the servants who quickly clear the table and remove the tablecloth. Eldariel removes the crown and the regal attire to reveal sort of like a jumpsuit sort of thing, turns towards your table, and bows with a hand out and gestures you all to join him. What do you guys do?
I stand the fuck up.
All right, Faraday. Summer Faraday, I should add.
I turn to Summer Faraday and say, just like old times.
She'll get up and she'll.
And Arathea.
She will take Eldariel's hand and allow him to kind of escort her onto the table at least.
As he does escort you, he does do a little twirl
Oh.
and does place a kiss on your hand. And you do hear him say, "Wonderful to see you again, my dear."
Cujo?
It's all ours.
I have a very important question.
Oh, God.
This is the following day, right?
This is all in that same gala dinner. This is
No,
all
like
in the same...
I wasn't clear. From the previous session.
No, it's the same day.
Last week's session
same
was the
day.
previous day, or is it the same day?
Same day.
Same day.
Okay.
Well, 2 weeks ago. Not last.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, unless that is the same day. And portal opens. I don't fucking know.
Alright. I just making sure I have the correct number of spell slots.
Yep, I gotcha.
Okay, I got plenty.
You see Eldariel after greeting Arathea, and you see his eyes linger on you for just a moment as he kind of smirks and turns away. Turns towards Faraday. "My darling, I do love the new look."
But appropriate for the season.
Well, it's wonderful to see you again as well.
It is amazing to see you.
Ah, and the maestro, Mr. Dermot O'Ferry himself.
I remove my hat, and with a large flourish, it's a pleasure to see you again.
He gives the same
Fancy bow
flourish.
this time too.
I'll say at this point, Thurston and Cad sort of make their way inside as the encore performance is about to start. I will need what are you guys doing to join in this dual performance with the Benmez? Does they essentially have some of their troupe get on the table and gesture for you all to join them? What do you guys all do to contribute to this performance?
So what are they actually doing?
So
Like what type of performance, I guess, is the question.
Eldariel proposes a joint music and physical performance, act/dance. He gives a song that is pretty much well known throughout the land. I'm not going to give you a title because I don't have one ready. But it is a song detailing the rise and fall of the Chroma Conclave. So it's relatively new. It's been making the rounds in several taverns. Speaking of which, Cad, as you sort of make your way back to the table, you can spot Scanlan, who says, I was there. Why can I not perform?" And Pike goes, "I don't know, shut up."
As I walk past the table, I don't want to go up there, but like Cad sees them on the table stage, and she puts her hand on it and casts light to make it light up in this sort of like reddish color that would complement Faraday's fire whip very well.
Awesome.
Excellent.
I'll say that
That's very helpful. I don't have to cast pyrotechnics now.
the
You're
Benmez do
welcome.
begin, essentially kind of leading you all and to participate however you would like. As they begin playing a song, they do have a small band as some of the other Benmez performers, not wearing any fancy attire, not knowing that this was going to be a thing, begin dancing in the center of the room.
I will use minor illusion to enhance the sounds associated with this story specifically.
Nice. Awesome.
So dragon roar or crackle of fire
Awesome.
as needed.
I will say roll me a d20 and add 7 to that.
Okay. Not bad. 22.
22. You cast the minor illusion spell as you see several of these performers mimicking the movements of several of the dragons. They arch their back and act as though they're going to breathe fire, and the crowd is stunned as somehow emanating from this performer, the actual sound of a dragon's roar emanates out into the room. And you hear gasps, and people rise from their chair, stunned. As they begin moving, almost as wings are flapping, they can almost feel the wind rush past them as they hear the batting of wings. Well done. Faraday.
Faraday's not armed
Okay.
because that's a weapon, and Thurston said no to weapons.
Was that rule number 1?
I'm pretty sure that would have been that was like rule number 0.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Rule number before we left the house.
That was like he came down the hall and started knocking on doors being like, don't forget, no weapons, which I'm sure inspired Cad to be like, oh wait, yeah, I forgot weapons.
Wouldn't have brought them had he not done that.
Like, she wasn't dressed with them in mind, and then went,
man.
oh yeah.
So it's really Thurston's fault. Is what we're saying.
Yeah.
However, she will use, and I will leave it to DM discretion on how many she can use.
Sure.
Many of her spells do different types of elemental or elemental damage or some sort of thing. So like her lightning lure is basically a strike of lightning. Her armor of Agathis is frost. It encoats her, but if that's hellish rebuke, her eldritch blast is green.
Mm-hmm.
If she can use kind of the, and I will burn all my pack slots, and then eldritch blast and lightning lure are cantrips. But basically utilizing more of her magic, a la Arthea, kind of channeling her inner Arthea to lean more on the magic to emanate breath weapons. Obviously not like hitting anybody, keeping to like high shots, but like
Sure.
emanating basically kind of breath weapons.
Okay. Roll me a d20, and again, because it's a really fucking cool idea, add +7.
Okay. I need you to behave, please. Please, please, please. 17.
17. Your breath weapon effect, acting essentially as the Chroma Conclave here, goes off perfectly. And the Ben Mezd are almost excited as they can see actual magical effects being presented in such a way, as it contributes to the art of the performance. And as you are moving about, sort of mimicking their dragon-like movements, you do let out a little bit of the hellish rebuke energy to let out a little bit of that fire. And yeah, it does singe a noble's mustache just a little bit.
Okay. That I'm fine with.
But even so, he's like pulled back by his wife, and as he like recovers, he's like, "Oh, that was amazing!" And they're all enamored with the performance in front of them. Yeah, he's got like half a mustache on one side now.
He's gonna tell stories about that.
And Dermot, what do you bring to the table?
Okay.
I assume it's going to be a song from Fiona to join in.
Well, yes.
And
Okay.
I was.
You can add in whatever additional flourishes or anything you'd like. The main reason I had just D20 +7 was because I don't... Using magic in a performative aspect, I didn't want it to just be a performance check. I wanted it to have something else with it.
Mhm.
But so it does depend on what it is that you want to do to contribute to this.
Well, my original plan was to use Hypnotic Pattern to simulate the dragon breath weapons, cast it high in the air, so
Mhm.
nobody was making saves, or cast it like on like the audience, so that it was like ribbons were like intertwining in
Mhm.
them. But obviously not casting it on the performers, because that would be a really short encore. But Faraday already kind of has that covered. So instead, in addition to my performance check, I am going to cast Fairy Fire on, and I am going to pick a time, probably second half or just late in the performance, at a point where I can catch as many performers as I possibly can at the same time.
Okay.
And I am going to Fairy Fire all of the performers who are taking the parts of the heroes.
Okay. I love it. Sounds good. Go ahead and again make me a D20 and yeah, add +7. I like that. That's
Can I
super
just make
cool.
a performance check?
You can make a performance check too, or if you'd like, if whichever's higher for you.
My performance is +14.
You know what? Fuck it. Go ahead and make your performance check.
What you do? This is your
27.
Fuck. Everybody just orgasms. Your Fairy Fire.
Party.
It is after hours.
Well, we're getting there.
I'll be back surprised.
As the heroes of the performance present themselves and begin doing this mock dance with Faraday, and Faraday, you are following along pretty much exactly with the beat and everything. You do pick a time where it looks like Faraday, as the Chroma Conclave, is getting one up over the heroes before they all rise up, and you pick that opportunity to activate your Fairy Fire. Describe how it looks, because normally it's like flower petals.
Yeah, normally it's flower petals. This time, it's just going to be. I've seen Pike in her armor, right?
Yes, you have.
I am going to pick glitter that matches the color of her armor.
Shit,
Nice.
that's awesome.
That's perfect. You cast it, and you just see this. It's not like out of a glitter confetti cannon. It just sort of appears,
Yeah.
almost like a breeze, kind of coursing through them, and almost just feeling like that shot in Avengers Endgame when the camera pans back and everybody's just standing ready for fight, and everybody's lined up and ready to go. They have that hero pose before they finish this incredible performance with all of you. It concludes with each of them essentially doing this mock dance fight thing with Faraday, who picking up the cues. You do sort of tumble to the ground. You basically are like two steps away from having your like tongue out as you're like on the ground. But with all of them standing tall, and you do hear murmured from all of them as the performance finishes. There was a wonderful job, Faraday. Wonderful. Exquisite. You hear other people, we need to have you join us. This was truly wonderful. As the song finishes and everybody rises and claps, and you hear the raucous cheer of applause. Gracia, full on, like cymbals, just clapping her hands as everybody is shouting adoration for all of you. Some of the performers do reach down and help Faraday back up, and they do regard her, so you do get your own applause. Each of you is regarded for a moment as you are presented with a moment to bask in the spotlight for a moment. And as the performers all finish their final bows, they then start helping people off of the table so that they can have that back. Aldariel does sort of sneak in front of everybody to reach up to help Arthea.
Which is really good because she's realized that she climbed up on a table in a dress and is struggling.
It's fine.
Yeah. She managed the curtsy to, do that somewhat gracefully, and then tried to step down and was like, oh, like we don't hike it up that high. Yes. So she will take the hand gladly and carefully try and get down from the table without falling or
Aldario does say, the problem with impromptu stages is just that. They are quite impromptu, so I do apologize if that was uncomfortable for you.
No. Well, the performance was actually delightful. I haven't never done that before.
It would have been nothing without your contributions.
No, it was nice to use my talents for something more frivolous. But no. So she finally crumbles down from the table, and it is a pleasure to see you again.
Always a pleasure to see you, my darling.
Did you ever make it to... You were headed toward Vasselheim?
We had meant to make it across the sea to Vasselheim. Unfortunately, due to some disturbances on the sea, it was impossible for us to make the sea travel. So we did exercise a little bit of a strained tenure in Imon itself before deciding perhaps to continue touring Tal'Dorei.
Well, we were hoping we were actually in Vasselheim maybe a month and a half ago. We were hoping to perhaps run into you there, but I suppose, it's our benefit that you were unable to cross the ocean. Certainly to the rest of these people, as she gestures to the entirety of the audience.
Hmm. Well, yes, these people who judge performers on the street, but when they are performing, suddenly we are, he gives a bow, God's children.
Well, I think they probably still judge, but at least, well, they do it more quietly.
Hmm. Well, all that being said, um, it was truly. You see, he kind of stumbles over himself a little bit and says, "It was quite fortunate that we all got to see you all again."
Mm. Is Cad over around us now?
Well, Cad, where would you be as the performance is now finished?
Probably walked up and extinguished the light on the table,
Mm.
first of all. But I'm probably just kind of like lingering around where we were sitting, kind of, and
Cad has been making
Yeah.
marvelous use of the coat.
Oh, that really does mean a lot. I'm truly glad. You all are quite the interesting bunch of adventurers, but truth be told, we have not encountered any on our travels as interesting as you lot in quite some
Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
time. Only good, I promise.
As Dermot walks up, hearing only that last bit, he just says, "I'll consider it high praise."
As you should, Mr. O'Ferry.
It
Again,
is
a
always
stellar
a pleasure to
performance.
perform with you.
The pleasure is all ours. And he does a bow, but then also offers the like brothers in arms handshake as well. Have your travels been safe?
No, but when are they ever?
Welcome to Exandria.
And I will reintroduce Fiona. Say, you remember Fiona, I'm sure.
My beautiful Fiona, it has been far too long. There's a moment of hesitation before you hear, "Oh dear, it's always wonderful to see you again." And Aldariel kind of eyes go wide and then looks back and forth and then looks at Dermot. My dear Fiona, you look
And I
even
just
more...
give him like a huge shit-eating grin.
My dearest Fiona, you've grown even more radiant since the last time I saw you. And he kind of gives Dermot a look like, what the fuck?
I explained to him, not in great detail, but the our travels have awakened a power in Fiona that even I was unaware of, but I'm grateful for all the same.
Ever more surprises coming from your group, and I am here for it. Perhaps they will write as grand a song as the one that we just performed about you all one day.
I think Dermot would be the one writing it.
And I
You
would
think I
delight
haven't
in
already
performing.
started?
Wonderful, wonderful. He then turns, where is, and sees Faraday. My darling. Another stellar performance from you.
The opportunities must be taken. I don't do much performing lately, so it's wonderful to be able to do that with you.
Well, if we ever find ourselves in the same location again in the future, by all means, you are considered honorary Ben Mezd members and are welcome to join in any performances that we put on.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Of course. Is everything all right, dear?
Just trying to get used to a party this size.
I can understand that. With the Ben Mez, there are many comings and goings, unfortunately. But it's sort of the excitement. You never know when you might run into those faces again someday.
Beauty of being able to travel.
He does offer a bow and a kiss on the hand, as he recognizes that there's some weight behind there, but doesn't want to press. At this point, the Ben Mezd have begun collecting their garments and their performance pieces and everything into the crate, while also being harried by every noble in the building about performing for birthday parties or bar mitzvahs or what have you.
They would.
Eldariel, essentially, after greeting all of you and spending some time, he does state, I must go save the rest of my troop, if you don't mind.
Go.
Will you be in
we will-
town for a while?
We will be in town for a few days, yes.
Okay. And where are you headed next?
We have actually taken up a spot outside the city walls.
Okay.
Our troop has taken to camping a little bit more than in the
Oh.
winter when we last saw each other. So we have many tents and whatnot. But you're welcome to come and spend time telling stories of your travels with us.
Well, we could certainly do that. Perhaps we'll have to come out there on another day. Spend some quality time.
Wonderful. We look forward to it. Oh, I believe one of them is
Please.
asking. Yes, thank you. He hurries off to save one of the performers from a very drunken, overzealous guest who wants to invite one of them back to her manor. But at this point, the entire gala floor is yours.
Is there
Thurston.
any dancing going on or anything like that, or is it just like?
At this point, now that the performance has ended, there is a house band that is begun to play very, compared to the two performances from the Ben Mez, a very watered down and lukewarm performance of the same song you guys just put on. A little bit more stuffy and upper crust, but they have started to play, and as the Ben Mezd is moving their stuff out of the room, some of the goers have begun to dance.
I look at Thurston and say, I think I'd like to dance. Would you like to join me?
Thurston, he enjoyed the performance, but not as much as he probably could have. And he didn't really join in the chatting. You know, that person who's like, I've been that person, you've seen me do it, I'm sure. Kind of awkwardly standing back, smiling like, I'm here, and like, I like you, but I'm not in the mood to like you right now, and like chat.
Yeah.
Kind of what he's been doing. Hearing himself like specifically be addressed, kind of almost like, not wakes up, but he kind of like comes a little bit out of his head. It's like, of course, if you would like. And he stands up and he gives, a polite bow to Cad and then offers his arm.
Go out on the dance floor with him, and she waits for a second as they start dancing, and she just says, I just wanted to see if you were okay.
You followed us out there, didn't you? Or she did. I don't know why I'm surprised that you followed us out there. Well, it seems you learn something new every day. You don't always like the truth you learn, but you live with it.
True. I learned that lesson the hard way as well. But I know how much your family and everything matters to you. Given all that we've learned and some of the notebooks that I've found and translated, I couldn't help but have your back
Your friendship and support is, of course, always appreciated. But, well, I don't think you want to get involved in the oh so fun, noble business. It's a fight, but not the one that you tend to like.
Well, it'd be a whole new world compared to what I've been involved in before. To be fair, I don't think Elric is particularly happy with what his father is doing.
Well, I don't think anyone with don't tell my mother I said this with any common sense would be. Again, don't ever tell my mother I said that.
I heard nothing. But I know it doesn't need to be said, Thurston, but if you need us, whatever we need to do, whatever I need to do, just tell me.
Thank you. But maybe we should just focus on saving the world. Somehow that seems like the easier choice of thing to tackle. A phrase I
One thing
never
at a
thought I'd
time.
say.
One thing at a time. And my experience with, well, not nobles, but people of similar attitudes, the best thing that you can do is make them think that you're not afraid of them, no matter what he's threatening.
It would never be myself I'm afraid for. But I'll keep that in mind.
We don't have to keep dancing if you don't want to. I just thought it would be the easiest way.
It was very subtle, and honestly, something that is a card that is played by the noble class many times when you want a private conversation at an event like this. Well done.
Thank you. Well, I'm gonna go get another drink.
And he'll, release her arm, give a bow, as one should at the end of a dance, and he'll
Cat
just
goes off
head
to
back.
the bar.
Right. What would the rest of you like to do?
I think Faraday will, having gotten the dancing very much out of her system, will just kind of meander. Like, just kind of take in the crowds and just kind of walk the room. She's feeling a little restless, so.
Okay. Make me a... make me a perception check.
13?
With a 13, you're meandering around and you're seeing all sorts of people. You see couples sort of link up with other people that start to dance, and you can see almost everybody during this dance is having a conversation of some kind, whether it's business dealings, gossip. The conversations are ever present. And there are still some people that are remaining at the tables, continuing, business dealings on their own, not in the dance circle. And as you are meandering, you feel this presence behind you. And you sort of cast a glance backward, and you see walking with you is a tall elf wearing a very regal and natural themed vest, complete with the little poofy collar, completely bald with sylvan runes sort of painted on their skin. And you see that they are walking with their chest puffed up a little bit, and they carry a wine glass. And just as you regard them, they're just looking out on the crowd and just say, "Wonderful use of your gifts, darling." And they take a drink of their glass.
Appreciate them every day.
As well you should. I don't give them freely. But I will say, the spectacle was something to behold. Not too different from the one at Whitestone.
Know how to charm a crowd. Why break with what isn't... Why fix what isn't broken?
I couldn't agree more. You were born for this. Entertaining those around you. Providing a distraction from their hopeless mortality. It's truly memorable and remarkable, and should be celebrated. He does a cheers to you.
I still have... She does the math, like, in her head. Just under 200 days.
Oh, don't worry. This isn't me reminding you. This is merely a social outing. Seeing the world through your eyes. And I must say, while it is charming in certain measures, and he swirls the wine, you know it's far better at home. This is just merely a gathering. Just a friendly checkup on my favorite prize.
She grips the glass, like... She kind of... He probably sees it too. Like, it's pretty obvious that she's just gripping the stem of the glass that she's holding. I can appreciate the wonders here. And I believe I'd appreciate the wonders back home. I was able to enjoy them as freely as I am here.
That brings me to the actual reason that I'm here. I'm here to, I suppose, provide some early accommodation should you return home. The entire Feywild, all of the Seelie Court, is yours to explore. You may experience the wanderlust that envelops your very being through my court, as you see fit. You will no longer be chained to the Colosseum any longer if you so wish. Just keep in mind that there are still some duties to be performed, as you are a princess of my court.
This offer expire.
I am not one to provide any deceit or falsehoods. This does not have an expiration.
Just looks out at the group, just the crowd, enjoying themselves, completely unaware. I still have 197 days.
You may take them as much as you'd like. Merely just a additional benefit upon returning home. And he takes another sip of the glass and places it on a nearby tray. I do genuinely think that the performance was incredible. And he gives a bow. Until next time, my dear. And you see him gracefully move in between the nobles in your vicinity and heads towards the door.
She just stands like a deer caught in headlights, just so still, and just watches. And the second he's gone and through the doorway, her hand finally just cracks the stemware and just breaks it.
The moment it breaks, there's a servant who's like, "Oh, my dear, oh, I'm so sorry. These glasses are so fragile. I do have a handkerchief. If you'd like, I could get some disinfectant.
No,
There are some herbs that I can provide." He's
no,
just like very overbearing.
It's fine. I'm fine. And she just kind of like dumps what glass is not embedded in her hand into like whatever tray they're holding, and just, I'm fine. I have somebody who can help. Thank you, though.
All right. Not a problem. You see that they do run and fetch a broom and essentially a dustpan to get the shards of glass and everything cleaned up. All right. Dermot. Sorry.
One last thing.
Sorry.
She
Continue.
does take some of the blood and brush it over the knuckles of each of her hands to incite that hemocraft.
Interesting. Okay.
Before, fuck it. She picks a direction and she just walks and tries to find an exit.
Okay. All right.
And just kind of vanishes into the crowd.
All right. Dermot.
After a moment, after the group just kind of splits off again, I probably follow Eldario,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Looking at the right name, good. To go like schmooze with the other guests, to try and take as much pressure off of them as I can. And then just kind of like spend the rest of that time, just mingling. Like, I don't really have any specific goals. Just kind of working the crowd, as it were.
Okay. Make me a persuasion check. Because you're essentially
Alright.
trying to tell the crowd, like, yeah, they're cool, but I am too, so stop
Yeah.
clumping around that one dude and talk to me too. So he can
Yeah.
go get a drink.
That was garbage.
Oh.
23.
Oh god, that is
God, just unacceptable.
Didn't
You are-
even fucking try.
torches and
No.
pitchforks. You are booed out of the building. You are drawn and quartered.
Plus 14.
Drawn and
nonsense.
quartered.
Yeah, because it was just so terrible. Yeah, you handily work the crowd a little bit and sort of divert their attention a little bit so Eldariel and the other performers can continue gathering their things. I'll say, as you do, one of the people that is not swarming by any means, but approaching and wanting some information on where they're performing next, blah, 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 is Elric. And Elric at this point is a little sauced. As he says,
Cool.
"That was amazing. You guys are so good. Do you guys do birthday parties or no? My birthday is like 6 months away, but I mean, I could have like a half birthday party at 24. That's fine. People do that. And then he just starts rambling like a conversation with himself. And Eldario's like, I'm sure we can arrange something, Lord Woodward.
I turn to Eldario and I say, nonsense. It is this man's half birthday. And Dermot jumps up on a table and plays a note on Fiona to get everybody's attention, and shouts to the room, can I have your attention, please? Attention, please, everyone.
I will just give you. So, Sabelina turns and does one of these. Pike looks and kind of smirks and rolls her eyes. Scanlan, still sitting next to her, looks and goes, oh, I was going to do that.
He's behaved himself today. Like,
yeah.
Despite the entrance.
Lamar Woodward turns with a praising look and a light smile on his face. Eldario looks up and just big beaming grin. So everybody is now keyed in to you.
And I say, it has come to my attention, and I'm sorry, who am I talking about?
Elric Woodward.
It has come to my attention that today is a very special day, not only for the very obvious reason, but an event threatens to pass us by unnoticed. The young Lord Woodward, and gesturing to him, celebrates his half-birthday today, and I would like everyone to join me in singing happy birthday to him.
I'm gonna need another persuasion check. You definitely see Gracia at the table at this point she's like mingling with some of the other Ben Mez performers, and she is full on laughing and is like cheering to try to get everybody into it. But it's a noble gala. It's gonna take a little bit of persuasion.
That is...
million. 42.
24.
Jesus.
You're close.
That was close.
Some of the stuffier nobles are like, oh, half birthdays aren't a thing. Like, there's like 4 or 5 of them, like, in the perimeter that are like, I'm not taking part in this. Everyone else is like, all right.
Oh, it is 100% like when you're in a restaurant and all the wait staff starts shouting that it's somebody's birthday. I want that kind of vibe. Just the
worst.
Like I don't really want any of the other patrons to sing, but I want like Gracia on board.
Oh yeah.
And I want like all the wait staff on board.
You do manage to. It takes a moment. Some of the wait staff like murmur to each other, like, "Do we really have to do this now? I mean, I suppose we haven't got any moment in the sun. May as well." And they all like line up and circle around you and Elric, and Gracia joins in as well.
And I play whatever the Western. Actually, no, I probably don't play the correct happy birthday song.
Yeah, because that's copyright. Do you want to get sued?
I probably play the do you want me to roll for if I play like the like the Feywild version of the happy birthday song?
You don't have to roll. I'd say with the party being as ridiculous as it is, and with you essentially trying to give this
I want to embarrass him just a little bit.
I would say you would know like what to do and what to say, so you wouldn't have to roll for that. That's perfect.
All right, so I lead the whole room in happy birthday.
Jesus. there are some of the nobles that do chime in, and the waitstaff are enjoying themselves. And you're expecting Elric to get like red-faced and like a little embarrassed, but he's actually like laughing and like taking his glass and like doing a little bit of a dance with it too as he is celebrated for a moment. And Gracia murmurs to one of the waitstaff, who quickly runs back, gets another thing of sorbet with a candle in it, and then she just hands it to him and says, "For your birthday, from us at the waitstaff." Elric laughs, everybody laughs, and is enjoying a little bit of a raucous time. I like that.
I do play the song at double speed, so that it is an actual happy birthday song and not a funeral dirge. Because we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every happy birthday I've gotten from my family is a funeral dirge. But that's okay, it's fine.
Only to remind you of your impending death.
Yeah, kind
That
of.
you're 1 year closer.
Yeah, that you're 1 year
Yep.
closer to.
Yeah.
At the end of the song, I give a bow and a flourish, remove my hat in my customary fashion, and I issue an apology to Gracia for interrupting the festivities that are meant to be hers.
She kind of looks around and says, "Why are you apologizing? That was hilarious. You do that to everybody in the room, and I'd be perfectly fine with that."
You heard
Don't
it here
actually
first,
do
folks.
that, though.
Who else has a half birthday coming up?
But she does give a little bit of a bow and says, "Thank you for the masterful performance, Mr. O'Ferry." And Arthea.
I think probably after Faraday left, Arthea would also have gotten up and probably meandered, but in a different direction. And they're like, "Oh, okay, you're going that way. I'm gonna this way." And looked for. You said this room is a large ballroom, and there's an exit out to like a courtyard. That's an outdoor courtyard.
Yes.
So she, I think, would have made her way toward those doors to go walk the courtyard, and if there's any sort of statues or monuments out there, also to go examine those, just because they probably have been bothering her for the last hour and a half. It's like that the really large complex sculpture where you're just like, I just want to know what it is.
All right. You hold on, let me find a good thing here. Where is it? There we go. You step outside. It's not raining. I'm turning off the rain.
Get soaking wet and turn right back around.
Hold on. I'm trying to find a good there. Peaceful evening. That'll work. And turn off the music. Okay, cool. You step out and can hear the raucous celebration of apparently Elric's half birthday behind you.
She just smiles and takes a couple steps downstairs.
And as you finally step out into a nice, cool spring night, you wander the grounds a little bit. And it's at this point now that everything is quieter, Stella does sort of appear under your collar and finds her spot on your shoulder.
It's been
And
quite the night.
she nuzzles again into your cheek. You wander and you can see that there are statues dedicated to the past rulers of Westron. I almost said Whitestone. Of Westron. That this was not under a pseudo-military rule once upon a time. You gather that this was a fully functioning society prior to the Chroma Conclave. After the mayor of Westron had been killed, there was no easy way to decide who was going to take their place, and as such, the Margrave had stepped in to provide that leadership. Given that it's been several years now, it just strikes you as odd how long that this person has been in this position, given the history and well, really, yeah, just the history of those in the past around you.
So he would have been in power for like roughly 5 years, probably 5 to 6 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Is that odd compared to other rulers? Is the rulership something that would have changed previously? Like a mayor would there have been elections, or is this something where
Make a history check.
do I know anything about Westron? Let's see what Thurston has rattled off about at some point. The only way she knows anything.
Oh my god, the entire governmental hierarchy, I'm sure.
Yeah, at some point he probably did rattle it off. Just, as like here's information you guys should know. No, she doesn't know anything because I rolled a natural 1 for a total of 10.
She wasn't listening.
She tuned that one out.
I mean,
Damn.
you're not quite sure the normal process, but you do, even with a natural 1, I will give you that you did read up in the book, The Legend of Vox Machina.
Oh, yeah.
That when their adventures had first began, there was a sovereign, and at some point it switched to a council. You're not quite sure how long it took, but you do know that sometimes governmental systems can change.
Yeah.
Their
And in her mind, I think she's also, there's that moment of like, wow, they have a lot of, their rulership seems to change really fast. Like they're really unstable. And then she remembers, oh yeah, they only live for like 70 years here. So that's actually not that quickly for them. Because yeah, I
Yeah.
mean elves rule for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Instability of
Mortality.
humans. Yeah. Oh, those short-lived people. This is why they start all the wars.
It's a little
What's your-
racist, but all right.
What's your passive perception again? 19?
No, right now 21.
20. All right. With a 21, you can hear behind you the door to the courtyard open again. And you turn and see Aldariel. Now changed into more of a formal attire. It does slowly approach and says, I hope you wouldn't mind a little bit of company.
No,
Taking
I
time
would.
away from a crowd.
I would not mind it at all. Honestly, I needed to get away from the crowd myself, and at the same time, walking these grounds alone makes me feel a little, well, like anything might jump out.
I've noticed that with noble courtyards. They're always a little bit of a twisty-turny maze of some kind. But this
Maybe
one
so
is...
that they can have all the secret hidden conversations,
Oh, of course.
which I guess to be fair, we're doing, so.
This is true. But don't worry. And he gestures to a walking stick that he's got with him. I brought protection.
Well, I didn't want to cause a scene, and I didn't want it confiscated, so I left my usual accoutrement at home.
Ah,
But
unfortunate.
I can make do, I think. Hopefully this is not one of those parties. Drunken debauchery, not a problem. What usually ends up happening everywhere we go.
Noble parties like this tend to, and you guys are having this conversation as you are walking together through. He starts saying that still tends to happen even with the noble parties, as you are hearing from a nearby bush sounds of 2, maybe 3 people. And Eldaria goes, oh, right, we should just go this way. Let's go this way.
Suddenly pick up the pace. Pick up the pace. didn't hear anything. Nobody saw anything. I don't need to remember that. Oh,
It's all
I wish
right.
I had
It's
something that could just erase the sound from my mind.
I have heard of a spell.
Mm,
It's called mold memory or something like that. We have a few spellcasters in the Bent Mist. I'm sure I can arrange something
mm.
if you'd like.
I feel like that's very dangerous.
It is. I would not recommend doing
Yeah, I could see that becoming a disaster.
it.
But yes, well, no, I just felt the need to get out a bit, get some air. It's been, well, it's been a very, very eventful 4 months since we parted ways.
I would love to hear all about it if you're willing to tell that story. If tonight is not the best
I think it would,
opportunity.
I think it may require a little bit more than tonight. And honestly, actually, you may be able to help us with a couple things. Mostly, we're not, well, I'm not very familiar with most of this continent. And we might be headed into areas that I'm not sure anyone of us has traveled before. So perhaps we'll have to bring the group out and, like we said, spend some time catching up. And we would love to hear your stories.
Of
I'm
course.
sure that you have had just as exciting a time, hopefully with slightly less violence and
Mm,
evil.
uh, what choice is important, my dear? I'll have to inquire about that last part soon. But yes, of course, things are definitely. Do you hear that? He says that as you
Mm,
hear what sounds like shuffling around a nearby corner. It's leading closer to one of the doors into the manor from the courtyard, but you hear what sounds like the jiggling of a doorknob, along with a very hushed shit.
rec- would I recognize the voice?
The voice does not sound familiar to
Okay.
you.
And between us and that voice, is there anything bushes or
There are bushes and trees and whatnot that sort of salt and peppered through this courtyard
hmm,
that you could sneak up and hide behind, that sort of thing.
actually no. I will send Stella up
Okay.
and use her eyes.
All right. You focus your senses through Stella, and she takes off from your shoulder. She flies to a tree that about 35, 40 feet away. You can see two figures trying to pick a lock on one of the doors leading in deeper into the manor away from the party. One of which is both are humanoid. Um, but one, as they are crouched down, you can see that their feet are hooves, and there are some their hood that's been pulled up and over their head has some slight irregularities, kind of poking through a little bit.
So it would be a safe assumption that these individuals look similar to those who may have been escorted slash removed from the premises earlier.
That would be a pretty close assumption, yes.
Okay. Um, I will keep I will keep my vision with Stella and then but turn to Eldariel and just someone is trying to break in.
Well, that's
Is there a guard shield? You would think there would be some out here.
well, there should be, and you can hear him moving a little bit before he says, "I actually do see that there is a patrol that seems to be making their way in that direction. Should I alert
Flag
them?"
them down. I don't I don't know. Well, it looks like two individuals who were denied entry earlier.
Interesting. I will see if I can flag them down.
Mm.
and you hear, given that your vision is still on
Mhm.
the two, you hear some shuffled footprints or footsteps leading away, and you can hear distant conversation. Sirs, my apologies. I didn't mean to interrupt your patrol, but there are some ne'er-do-wells that seem to be trying to enter the manor right in that direction. And you can hear, what? And you hear the shuffling of armor. And within a few moments, you can see the two figures, their heads perk up in a direction, and they quickly grab some small bags and bolt as two shields. You hear them go, "Halt! Who goes there?" And you see them chasing down those two individuals.
Once they pass out of Stella's range of sight, I'll retract back to myself and also ask her to please maybe stay up there for the moment and wait for either Eldariel to return or the shields if they're running up first.
I would say the last thing that you do see right at the edge of her vision is the gates around the manor are the typical bars. You do see a spot where it looks like there are bows in the metal, almost as if it had been heated and pulled.
Cool.
You do see them sneak through that opening and disappear into the night beyond the gates.
That was ballsy.
Within a few moments, you do see, at this point, Eldariel make his way back over to you. Well, hopefully that will solve the problem.
Oh, I don't think it'll solve the problem, but it may temporarily delay the problem.
Oh, well,
It's odd, though. I don't. Well, I mean, you would think that they would, with everyone gathered here and with, with what being the Margraves estate, there would be patrols, something. I mean, the bars on their compound fence are melted or something. I mean,
hmm.
if I can see it from a distance, you would think the guard patrols would be able to see it.
Unless they've managed to study the patrols in some way.
Mm. Well, there are elements in this city that are known to operate in the shadows.
Hmm. With that in mind, as wonderful as this little walk is, I would recommend perhaps we should return to the
Mm,
party to be on the
I
safe
think
side.
so.
Yes,
I think
right
so.
this way, my
Yeah,
darling.
and
He does.
I will call Stella back at that point so that she can get
Uh,
out and hustle herself back in.
yeah, Aldaro does still give a graceful bow and leads
Mm,
you back towards the door back in. And he does say, one more thing right before we rejoin the pack of people all inside. Um, it is. I misspoke earlier. I am very glad to see you again. And he pulls from his sleeve a beautiful red rose.
she will accept the red rose and probably turn that color, um, and just give it a sniff, and then look back at him. I still have the one that you left me with when
Oh,
we.
wonderful. That one I I don't tend to I don't know how to speak apparently. Um it was meant to make you smile. So if it accomplished that and continues to do so,
It makes me smile every day.
then that's perfect. Um, I suppose
We should we should
we should get
My
back.
friends will probably get really nervous if
Yes,
I vanish.
the Ben Mesder are little chickens without their heads.
Mhm,
Sort of.
mhm.
We should get back in. And he opens the door and gestures.
Split.
All right. At this point, the evening begins to wind down. Some of the noble families are starting to get their carriages to depart. Um, uh, quick question though, Faraday, where is your intended destination?
Mm.
Okay.
Just kind of picks either the foyer to go out the front door, a side door. She just wants out.
Okay. You find yourself walking somewhat in the direction of the front gates on the grounds itself. And as you do walk, there are a couple of shields that sort of, gesture. Everything all right, miss?
Just needed some fresh air.
All right. Well, if you need anything, we are just a shout away. Just say the word.
I will.
You do find a small clearing of sorts. It's sort of half circle of bushes with a large tree that sort of overhangs the clearing, so it sort of casts a shadow over this break in the shrubs. You do find yourself sort of walking through there and finding it to be a nice little spot for yourself. What do you do?
She will lean up against the tree and just kind of let it ground her. Kind of feel feel the bark on her back, and just kind of imagine the bark and then the roots of the tree into the ground, and just kind of try and ground herself.
Make me a wisdom saving throw. This is not, I'm not imposing any additional shit.
No, you're good.
This is more just
You're
to
good.
kind of add some narrative here.
Yeah. Huh, not awful. 15.
You focus on the feeling of the bark of the tree, and you focus on the roots as you're essentially fighting back the fear, maybe not fear, maybe the anger that how dare he fucking show up. You're going through all these emotions, and you feel the bark of that tree, and your thoughts turn to Ellis, and you think of that even though she was devastated to have to leave, how strong she was to know that that was the strong decision to face it. And you think about the fun that you always have with her. You think about the messages to and from. And just as you are having that thought, hi, I know it's only been a little bit. I just wanted to let you know I'm here. Okay, I'm safe. I don't know how many more words I have. How many words do I have? The spell ends. And then there's a moment. Okay, I know. I know I only have 25 words. I just wanted to let you know that I love you and I miss you. And this place is so cool. And Keyleth said that at some point. Keyleth said that at some point you guys should come visit and see it for yourselves. She can definitely bring you through that tree or whatever she did. So you should do that soon. I love you. And you just hear that she's happy. She's you can tell she means the words that she misses you, but she's got that childlike excitement in her voice at the same time.
Faraday will respond. I love you too. And I miss you so much. Tell Keyleth that she couldn't keep me away. I will visit soon.
You definitely get one more message back that's just a bunch of giggles. And she says, I'll tell her right away.
She specifically does not ask where Ellis is.
Good. And after that, you feel a little bit more grounded, knowing that she's safe, at least seemingly.
Give a bit of a sigh and kind of look up at the tree. And with her non-injured hand, just kind of gently press it against the bark. And then she'll head back towards the front door, or whatever closest entrance. Maybe not backtracking, maybe going towards the front.
Okay.
Depending on...
As you approach, essentially you'd be approaching the front door.
Yep.
As you approach, make me a perception check.
17.
17. You can catch a little bit of chatter among some of the shields as they mention intruders had run off, an entrance through some of the fencing had been tampered with. It's the usual too.
She'll kind of pick up the pace, realizing that like she's not hearing like screaming or any sort of like, it doesn't seem to be like, despite having there been intruders of some sort, there's not like a ton of like panic.
Mhm.
But she'll kind of pick up the pace to head back inside.
Sounds good. I'll say that everybody does end up reconvening a little bit. Sabrina does at one point approach Thurston and just say, well, the night, I think, went rather well, all things considered. Well done. Proud of you as always. I think Gracie is a little tired from all of the craziness from the last few days, but I'm truly glad that you are home and able to come to this with me.
Yes, the night went interestingly fine.
She rolled a 4 on her insight, so she just doesn't really pick up on anything that you just said.
She had a couple drinks.
She's at you know,
She had her
interesting
white
note.
wine.
You know it's a
Listen,
good
that shit can
night.
get dangerous.
Like your mom.
You know it's a good night when her bun that she keeps her hair in all the time, when there's just like one or two strands that kind of just come undone a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of breakage, so it's kind of hanging off to the side a little bit. Just that teeny little flaw in her impervious appearance at any given moment.
Thurston would normally fix that. He doesn't feel like fixing that right now.
As some of the nobles are starting to make their way towards the carriages, Gracia and Algar approach, and Gracia, surprisingly more sober than you would think, but still a little sauced, does approach and say, I'm serious about the adventuring thing. I want to do that. I'm gonna have a talk with Algar in the morning. I think it's a wonderful career opportunity. Um, and I know you couldn't make the wedding, and she kind of just ever so slightly glances at Saberlina for a moment, who doesn't catch it. But I really had a lot of fun tonight, and I'm glad you could be here.
I am glad that I could be here as well. And if adventuring is truly what you want to do, I won't stop you.
You see
But
Algar behind her, like,
but remember, I'm only allowed to bring one bag.
you see Gracia have this like existential crisis cross over her eyes for a moment, and she's like, "Honey, one bag?" And Algar goes, "I know, it's tragic. We will continue searching through possible careers to fulfill ourselves with. Thurston is always a pleasure." He gives a bow.
You as well. Congratulations, and again, in both regards.
Thank you. I'm hopeful this will calm down soon. It's a little frenetic at the moment, but I'm sure time will calm things down.
Sure.
We should get going, dear. Okay, I'm gonna go see if I can pack a bag with stuff. He goes, okay, and like puts his arm around her, and they just walk towards one of the carriages. Is there anything else you guys wish to do?
Are we still at the party, or did we go back? Are we heading back, or what? Where?
You're still at the Margraves estate, essentially in that room, but you can see that the majority of the people are started to make their way towards the front door to get their carriages to get home. Surprisingly enough, you do see 3 nobles who make their way in from the courtyard, looking a little bit more disheveled than they did when they had arrived earlier.
Um, just look at the group and say, it's getting kind of late. Should we not overstay our welcome here?
I think that would probably be a good idea.
Yes, I think it is high time for the after party.
There's an after party?
It's always an after party.
Oh.
Scanlan says, "Can I actually play at the after party?"
Who says this?
Scanlan.
Yeah, why haven't you been playing all night?
Well, he looks back at Pike, have been a valuable and responsible husband. So
Lena gave him a look earlier in the evening.
that may have happened too. That's merely a side effect. But my primary concern was being there for my wife. And he puts his arm around Pike, and she's like, "Oh, my hero."
Well, Mallards do have quite a nice garden if Thurston doesn't mind us spending time there so as not to disturb his house.
You are always welcome to the use of the garden and the rest of the estate.
Oh, don't give them that freedom.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll insight on Scanlan.
Okay.
Perhaps Jules would be willing to give us some late night snacks as well. Less dry than the chicken.
21.
21. Scanlan, he's excited at the offer because he's getting to go to another noble's estate, but this time is allowed to kind of be off the leash just a little bit. As he was interacting with you specifically, Dermot, he kind of had this slight competitive edge to his tone of voice, almost like, how the fuck dare you take a bard gig with the Ben Mezd over me? Like, who the fuck are you? In a slight, like, puffing his chest a little bit.
Like, I'm Scanlan Shorthalt.
I'm
Scanlan Shorthalt.
fucking Shorthalt.
I've been sitting here all night not playing shit while Dermot's been off playing an instrument because nobody specifically told him not to.
Thurston's just kind of watching this, and like for the first bit and like a little bit, he actually has a little bit of like actual expression, and he just leans over, like, "Oh my gosh, is this how bards fight?"
with that,
Yes.
Dermot just looks at Pike and says, "Oh, you're good."
She just shrugs. I guess it's a gift from the Everlight. But Scanlan, as you guys are
You
starting
should
to
bottle it.
as you guys are starting to walk, Scanlan then turns and presents a glove.
No, this is how bards fight.
Oh.
Oh.
And he
Can I
slaps
eat it?
you across the cheek.
I pull off one of my gloves of thievery and hand it to Dermot.
I
Yeah,
challenge
Dermot
you
doesn't wear gloves.
Yeah, I handed one of my gloves.
to a rock off.
Oh.
In typical bard tradition, you have 24 hours to prepare your song and your arrangement. The venue will be the bar at the center of town. He's waving the glove all over the place as he's talking.
Where are we right now, right this moment? Are we like actively leaving and we are now outside?
Yes, you were like approaching a carriage, and Scanlan's like, I'm not allowing this to go any further.
I stopped dead in my tracks.
Yeah, I walk about like 3 feet before realizing.
And
with the glove too.
in one hand, I draw Fiona's bow,
Oh.
and in the other, Fiona, and say, "Dear, what song would you like to play?"
Oh, they're
You have 24 hours in the center of town. You pick your song. I'll pick my song.
What does Fiona say?
Oh dear.
The Mrs. Doubtfire.
I love
Yeah.
it.
As Scanlan is
I was
rambling
talking
off,
to Fiona when I said,
Oh,
"What
got
song
it.
would you like to play?"
As Scanlan continues to ramble, he is cut off by Fiona saying, "Oh dear, whatever song you pick, I'm sure will roast this little man into the ground."
Ooh,
To
she
which
getting
Scanlan,
sassy.
okay, that's cool. But the challenge still stands. Dear, we are leaving. And he turns and like marches, and Pike goes, "Okay, I'll see you guys tomorrow then."
Center and the center of West Run.
Yeah. Yeah. And she just turns and kind of like half trudges behind him.
What time?
He's still walking, but she goes, "At dusk."
Okay, thanks. See you at dusk.
Okay, love you guys.
You really wasted an opportunity there to be like, at high noon.
Yeah, it's high noon. Oh, Cassidy. But with that, oh, go ahead.
I wanted to do one thing once we got back to the Nullard estate, and I assume we're all kind of going off to bed. I would like to grab some of my things from my bag and quietly go find Sabelina.
I'll say that, yeah, as the after party kind of winds down a little bit, you guys are discussing the events of the evening. You do find Sabelina. You knock on her door, and she does open it. You can see that she was also preparing for bed, as her hair taken down, and she is wearing a robe with some sort of nightgown. Yes, is something wrong?
I suppose. I was wondering if I could speak with you for a few moments.
Um,
Can I put back on her armor, by the way.
Um, sure, yes.
Are
Come
you
inside.
that afraid of Sabalina?
Yes.
It's
She
like a hug.
she opens the door and steps through, and she actually leads you to her study, where as she walks, she ties her robe and then attempts to put her hair up so she can be a little bit more presentable. But she does lead you to her study and says, yes, Cadriel, how can I help you?
I do apologize for interrupting you, as I know you were getting ready for bed, as we all were.
Oh, it's fine.
I wanted to give these to you, and I hand her stack of papers that I had been translating from the class notebooks that discusses Woodward and all of his involvement in all of that shit.
Do you explain that to her?
I give them to her and I just say, I'm very fond of Thurston. He is a wonderful person, and I know how much he cares about his family, and I saw the presentation that all of you were only privy to tonight. And I heard certain things said as he hung back after everybody else.
I hope Thurston was professional.
He was, of course. I know I was not seen, but Thurston doesn't like to ask for help. I've learned that about him in the last so many months and time that we've spent together, and I know how much he values you and his family. And just in case you need it, this is what's contained in there. I have the originals, but I've translated all of these, some from Undercommon, some from Mixes of Thieves' Cant. But should Mr. Woodward try to do any harm to your family in terms of certain bits of information getting released, this should give you a bit of a way to fight back.
Thank you. Um, and you see she wrestles with her emotions for the first time since you've met her. She's not sure whether she should be fearful that something may have been revealed to Thurston, whether even accepting this is safe information. But she allows herself a few moments for, thank you, Cadriel. This information will prove invaluable. I do appreciate you taking care of my son, and I can tell that your friendship with him means the world to him, even if he has difficulty asking for assistance from time to time. I do believe that that unfortunately was one trait I may have taught him from an early age, to pick himself up by his bootstraps if he can.
Thurston
But
does mean a lot to us. We all feel horribly about what happened and would never have encouraged him to get involved in our stupid shenanigans had we known.
I know. I'm aware. You care for him deeply, and he cares for you as well. Nobody intends for anything like that to happen. I would just say, let me see what I can do with this. And see if we can't mount a surmountable defense should anything go south.
It's all I wanted to enable you to do, and I think Thurston would be upset with me if he knew I was coming to you with this, but if perhaps we could keep it between us.
It is safe with me.
I will leave you to your routine.
Thank you. You see that she takes the documents. She turns and she's got this large desk that is flanked by a fireplace and a large bookcase that sort of frames it. She picks one of the books, unmarked green, sort of leather bound, and she opens it, and you can see that the pages are false. As she opens the book, that is essentially a small box, and you can see that there are other couple little pieces of paper and whatnot hidden within. She takes the documents, rolls them up, and puts them in this book, closes it, and then positions it in the wall again. And you can see that she moves her hand along the spine, and you see some of the books, like it like sinks into the bookshelf, and other books move to take its place.
So cool. Cadriel just quietly slips out of the room and leaves her to her, not wanting to disturb her more. And she definitely uses her stealthy capabilities to make sure that, especially, she doesn't want Thurston to see her coming from his mother's room, knowing that she had a conversation with her about something, and she'll just slip back into her and Arthea's room.
Just for fun, make a stealth check. And just for fun, Thurston, make a perception check.
It's her stealth check, please.
I didn't roll great. It's 16.
Oh,
I rolled pretty shit. That's an 8.
ah,
The one time.
yeah.
I
One
rolled
time
a
you can
natural
caught
1
Tad in
and
the
a
act.
5.
You sneak back into your room without any interruptions or anybody discovering your
I
movements.
mean, Arthea probably fully noticed because I know what her passive perception is. But
yeah, I'd say Arthea, you definitely, you're mid-trance as the door ever so quietly creaks open and then closed a few moments after.
She's used to this. She's used to this. The first time she panicked after like a couple of years. That's just Cad.
And with that, I'm going to call tonight's session to a close.
Hooray!
Yay.
To everybody who tuned in, thank you so much. We love you. I'm very much looking forward to what happens next, as again, the ball is in this party's court.
We
So,
didn't cause an incident at the ball.
I know, it's
No.
weird.
Actually, Thurston is the one who came closest to causing an incident at this party.
Yeah.
You know,
True
Thurston,
story.
I feel like Thurston might have broken some of the rules that he passed out beforehand.
yeah, did Thurston find the note card at any point that Cat would have handed back in
While he
his
was putting the
pocket?
jacket away, probably.
We still have to confront Estella because we need to have a conversation with her.
You guys have a lot of stuff to possibly
a-
look into.
We have a duel, though, that's happening.
Yes.
Hell yeah, a bard off. Hells yes.
So are you both gonna like create playlists or like how is this bard off gonna happen? I want a legitimate like rap battle. Thank you.
With that in mind,
Short
we
hop
love you.
versus the fairy.
We love you all. Be nice to each other, and we will see you next week for the rock off.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.